About a year ago I was helping my friend build a computer, so we went to the local computer parts store to buy some components. In the power supply section, we found a few different models that we hadn't considered that had an in-store only sale, so I suggested we walk over to the Fruit-branded laptop stand to read some reviews, because I knew they were connected to the store's internal Wi-Fi network. After a few minutes of reading reviews, and comparing prices at other stores, an older man tried to get my attention. At this point, I should note that the employees at this store wear bright neon orange polo shirts, which I most certainly was not wearing. "Excuse me," he asked, "do you work here?" "No, I don't, sorry. The workers are dressed like him," I replied, pointing to one of the workers, who was helping someone else at the time, but I wanted to point out their very bright uniform, which should be pretty obvious to anyone. "I know, but I've been helped by someone wearing normal clothes once," he said. At this point, he seemed pretty nice about it all, ignoring that technically if I was an employee I would have been helping a customer, so this guy would still be barging in, so I asked him if I could take a shot at answering his question. He asked what the difference between the Touch Bar laptop and the non-Touch Bar version was besides price. After looking, I told him that looks like it was the only difference, which disappointed him. Then, someone behind us interrupted us, "Can I help any of you guys?" We turned around, only to see that the worker asking us, was, in fact, wearing normal street clothes. The old maid excitedly yelled, "See, I told you they don't all wear uniforms," which I conceded. After that, I palmed him off to the actual worker, and my friend and I walked back to the PSU section, where we carried on with our day, a little confused as to what happened. I was a server/bartender for almost 8 years before I left. I come here for the funny stories. Although some give me PTSD, I swear. But lately it seems everyone is so tired and angry and anxious because of the virus and how ignorant customers are being. Just as a member of the general public, I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all you have to deal with and the choices you're being forced to make. You did not sign up for a job that requires you to risk your health and safety, and it's unfair that it's now being asked of you with little to no real compensation or even gratitude. Please stay strong, everyone. So a customer said something to me last night that brought this to mind, and I thought I'd share. This happened about 3 years ago. I had just been moved to primary third shift at my store, and at the time there were only 2 white people working there, the manager and me. Okay, I'm more of a mutt than white, but I hadn't seen the sun for 2 months, so I was kind of pasty. And this wasn't racist hiring practice, this was a relatively accurate cross-section of our area. As part of my job, when a customer enters the store I have to call out, "Welcome to company /." Also, employees wore, at the time, dress code has loosened a little bit, company-issued polo shirts and khaki pants with a name tag front and center on the shirt, where it can be easily read. This will be important later. The way my store is set up, there is a narrow strip of floor between the roller grill counter and the counter that the frozen drinks, soda fountain, and coffee machines are on. This is a strip of floor that always needs mopped, because customers tend to think that it's a shortcut and, somehow, always manage to spill drinks there. I was mopping this strip of floor, which meant I was hidden from the doors. A customer came in, on her cell phone, and I heard her laugh and say as she walked in, "I'm not racist." I pop up from mopping and chirp, I always try to sound happy, regardless of what I feel, "Welcome to company /." "Hold on," the woman said as she pulled the phone away from her face. She was black, she pointed to me. "What are you doing here?" Confused, I said, "I work here. How may I help you?" "No," she told me firmly. "You're not allowed to work here." I was even more confused. Of course I was allowed to work there, I'd been hired by the company. "No, I really do work here." "No," she said again. "I was in here this morning and everyone who works here is black." "Oh," I said as enlightenment dawned. "I'm not always the sharpest tool in the shed. No, I work here. The only color, company /, cares about is money." "Oh no. No, this is not acceptable. I'm going to go fix this right now." She turned and left. I have no idea what she intended to do to fix it, but I never heard anything more about it. So, it's been several years, and I'll preface this by mentioning that my lower back has been messed up for 15+ years. So I'm sitting in my cubicle at work, being an industrious employee and doing my job. Felt a sneeze coming on, normally not a big deal, and just let it go. Now, I don't have small sneezes and have had a kid yell "bless you" from several aisles away while in the grocery store. This oneness, apparently, was extreme. This sneeze comes exploding out and the next thing I know, I'm stuck in my chair unable to sit up or lean forward. After about 5 minutes, I'm finally able to sit up enough to call my wife, she worked there too, and tell her what I'd done. At her insistence, we were going to head to the ER. Being a hard-headed man, refused to call an ambulance even though I couldn't straighten or bend from a 45 degrees position. The ride to the ER was excruciating even though it was only 10 minutes away. Everyone, including myself, was trying not to laugh about what I had done to end up there. After a few hours and an MRI, it turns out I'd ruptured 2 discs in my lumbar area and ended up on painkillers and muscle relaxers. To this day, I'm still nervous when I feel a sneeze coming in. TLDR, sneezed so hard I ruptured 2 discs in my back. This happened about 6 years ago. I was single and on Bumble. I met Zach, and after talking a bit, agreed to meet. We went for dinner and got on well. He had brought flowers and arranged with the waiters to put them on the table, which I thought was unexpected but nice. He had been to a good school, had a good job, and was polite and funny. He basically checked every box on paper. He told stories about his friends and family, all seemed totally normal. We went for drinks after dinner, and went home. The next morning, I got a text from him. I had a great time, let's do it again. Although there was nothing wrong with him, I just didn't feel a spark, so I said, thanks so much for a great night. And explained it wasn't really what I was looking for but had a nice time meeting him. I expected that to be it, or for him to say no worries, but I got another text. What was wrong, haha? Least you can do is give it another chance? He offered drinks nearby. I didn't answer. That's where things took a turn. Zach started sending me extremely long messages. How dare you do this? We had something really special. I've talked to all my friends and they say it sounded like it was something special too. He would get angry, you're selfish and heartless, how can you hurt me like this? The least you can do is answer me, and would then apologize, I'm so sorry. I'm a good guy. I just feel so strongly about this because I've never felt this way before and know this is true love. I need to know why you don't see it too. Please just tell me what went wrong. Let me give you the chance to see what I see. It went on and on, essay-length messages about how he felt about me and what we could be together. This continued all day every day for around a week. 20+ long messages a day. He would also continuously call me. By the weekend, I was getting calls almost every 10 minutes. My doorbell had also started to ring continuously. When I checked the door camera, whoever it was crouching down so I couldn't see them. That day, I blocked his number. I didn't get any more surprise visits, and moved shortly after. In the following years I met someone and we had a son together. Life went on. In the last week I checked my LinkedIn and Instagram. I had 2 new requests, both from Zach. So, although you seemingly still want to, Zach, let's not meet again. A man came to drop off a few scripts through the drive-thru and wanted to wait. We weren't busy at that time of night so I told him to pull around the building if someone pulled up behind him. After a few minutes of waiting he gets exasperated and pulls around, comes inside. After we get everything finished, he comes up to pay, hands me a $100 bill after our drawers had just been changed over, retail pharmacy, so I had to call for change. After the entire transaction is done, and he's obviously cranky he tells me well, I didn't want to come inside since I'm COVID positive but you were taking too long. Are you freaking serious right now? I had to immediately call the manager to warn her to drop everything and wash her hands immediately, and go through and clean all the various surfaces he was touching. I can't believe some people. First time poster and on mobile so I am sorry about formatting. But English is my first language so grammar and spelling is all on me. Many years ago I was on a Tier 1 tech support team for a government entity. As such the range of people were from way smarter than me to how did you even figure out how the phone works? You can probably guess which this story applies to. This story will also be briefer than the actual call since I don't have that good a memory and it was around 10 to 12 years ago. Me, thanks for calling the service desk, I can help you. User, hi, my laptop will not turn on. All the lights are on but my monitor is black. Okay, can I have you hold the power button down until the light goes off? After that wait 30 seconds and press it again to turn it back on. Okay, done. The blue light is back on. But nothing is happening on the monitor. This immediately sets off an alarm bell as all our laptops at this point in time have green power lights. Great, thank you. Can you tell me what it says on the computer with the blue light? Yes, It says APC on it. Okay, that is actually your battery backup. Is there anything on your desk that says Dell on it? Yes, my docking station does. Great, where is your laptop? Oh, it is at home. At this point I had to put her on mute to collect my thoughts. There is also now the task of explaining that you have to have your laptop with you for it to turn on. I, somehow, eloquently explained the requirement and bid her on her way. Next day she calls back and we have to dispatch a tech to her desk to help dock the laptop. So my dad was talking to a friend a few minutes ago about a person to work with. My dad works in construction, so we know lots of people who do it as well. This person we will call L for as in lazy, so L called my dad this morning looking for a specific type of siding which is only found in certain places because of the size and type. L was asking if he knew where he could find the siding, claiming that he had checked everywhere, which my dad says is a lie. So my dad went and called a place where this material is found to ask if they had this type available, and to get a little payback for L being well lazy, he told him the only place that had it was the farthest store from him, which is an hour away drive. So yeah, L was lazy to check any stores. My dad sent him an hour away to get it, even though they are closer ones nearby. This is my first story, so sorry if it's not so good, but hey, I found it funny. I work tech support at a mine. Users are not known for their computer literacy. The company is switching over to a new voicemail system that users have to register and create a PIN on the webpage. Catch is, you can't use any other browser will work and the instructions were very clear and easy to follow. Q user stomping into my office saying that they can't get Chrome to install on their PC so they can't complete the registration, and that I have to come over right now and fix it. So I walk over and there is Chrome browser window open, with 10 or so downloads of Chrome at the bottom, and an error box saying Chrome is already installed on the PC. Yeah, user was opening Chrome, to download and install Chrome, then complaining when the installation failed. DL, doctor, user is using the Chrome browser to download and install the Chrome browser and getting an error that it was already installed, then told me it was broken and she couldn't install Chrome. Usual mobile warning. This is another story from when he worked as a security guard at a mental hospital. For a quick background, he'd make rounds, accompany mental patients if they wanted to have a smoke or accompany them if they needed to go to the bigger hospital. This story sounds like a joke but it's totally true. My brother was doing his rounds, had his smoke break with his space chick and regular read my other story to find out about that one, then he came across a wandering patient with his ear/head pressed against the wall. "Bro, what are you doing, mate?" Patient, listening. "Can't you hear it?" As you do with mental patients. You play into it, so he put his head carefully against the wall. "Bro, I don't hear anything." Patient, "Me either." Bro had to try not to crack up while he got the guy back to his room. I used to work at a retail store and I have a bunch of stories of crazy customers since I worked with returns. This one lady comes in wanting to do multiple returns. The first one went fine, she didn't sign anything because she didn't have to and I gave her the receipt. The second return had more clothes, but they were purchased for a lower price. So when I told her the total being returned she flipped out on me. It was like 4 items totaling to 20. She said she didn't want to return them in that case because it wasn't the right price. She told me I was giving her less than what she paid. So I searched up the receipt and turned the screen towards her. I then proceeded to scan each item so they would light up on the screen showing her the price she paid. She then started yelling at me telling me it's not correct and that she didn't authorize the return. I told her that just like the first return she didn't need to sign anything for authorization. To which she yelled again that she didn't authorize anything. She is throwing a full-on fit at this point and it's right in front of her 2 daughters who are both looking at her like she's embarrassing them. I had the items on our side of the counter because the items had been returned and she was being refunded. She took the items and I told her they need to stay on this side until the manager reverses the return. She again yelled I didn't authorize anything. While we are waiting for my manager I go help another customer and when I'm in the back getting the new customer's order I hear the lady talk to her daughters. She says what does he think I'm going to do? Walk out of here with my items? When I come back I say ma'am those items have been returned and you are getting a refund, so currently they belong to the store. Can you guess what she said next? I didn't authorize anything. Eventually my manager comes back and I tell her what's happened and she goes over to the customer to fix the situation. This lady then tells my manager that I called her a thief, I'm incompetent, and that I need to be retrained in customer service. My manager just nods and gets the issue solved. She also tells the lady that with our system the customer doesn't have to authorize a return. When the lady leaves, I go to my manager and tell her that I didn't call her a thief. To my relief, my manager said, "Oh, I know, I didn't believe a word she said." I loved her so much. I've recently began to be more active. Lots of hiking and running. I experienced a lot of pain and numbness in my legs and feet. Figured it would go away as I got in better shape and my body adapted to the newfound activities. I tried different style of footwear but nothing really improved. 3 months later and still in pain, I decided I needed customized footwear. Went in and had my feet measured and analyzed. Turns out I had been wearing a shoe size too small the entire time. I didn't notice before since I always preferred a snug fit and wasn't really doing anything else other than walking. With running/hiking, especially uphill, the smaller size shoes created pressure on my feet that was cutting off circulation. Everything makes sense now. I knew I had the conditioning, it was only the pain and numbness keeping me back from more challenging trails. Now I got many pairs of shoes that are suddenly obsolete. TL, Dr. Abnormal amount of pain led me to discover I've been wearing a shoe size too small for the last 15 years. I work for a large car dealership. I've just completed a rollout of a new thin client image for our users after much blood, sweat and tears. I had been testing this image for a long while, and had created a test user in the system to simulate real user scenarios. I named this user after a certain character from a movie often described as 1984 and a half. One of the issues I had to resolve from the old image was RDP saving the username and password of the last user, which is something we didn't want. The settings were in place, and I thought it wouldn't remember the previous username and password, which it doesn't, but RDP does remember the last username with the option to use another account. Due to various other fires popping up, I had to race to get this image captured and deployed yesterday, Sunday. Everything has been going fine so far with the new image. The only problem so far is that people have been calling me up constantly all day asking who Sam Lowry is and why he's been using their computer. Like most of you on here, I have become increasingly bitter and angry and resentful since my restaurant opened for dine-in 3 weeks ago. We are bending over backwards and implementing so many precautions to protect the customers, but nobody is protecting us. The bottom line is, masks pretty much only work one way and customers aren't wearing them. 4 or 5 restaurants in my area have closed in the last week because their employees got sick. I just graduated college last month, and best case scenario I'll start a job in August or September. Luckily I'm staying rent-free with my parents until then, and have some savings to live off of. I hope that those of you that are also trying to get out of the industry right now can find a way to make it happen. So this just happened like 30 minutes ago and I'm still kinda freaking out about it, but here goes. My girlfriend lives really far away, so when we both get into the mood sometimes, we'll talk dirty to each other. This helps both of us and it's usually really fun. However, we've gotten so used to doing that we didn't realize that those kind of things aren't normal for conversations. 30 minutes ago, my girlfriend was going to bed and I was telling her goodnight and we were just joking around when she asked me what I thought about her body. I said something along the lines of, "Your body is so hot that I can't wait to just pick you up, toss you on the bed, and flip the life out of you." I thought it would get a laugh out of her, but for some reason, she didn't hear anything I said and I had to repeat myself. What I didn't realize was that her mom was in her car and my girlfriend's phone connected and her mom heard me. She came barging into the room and told my girlfriend to get off the phone with me. When she called me back, she told me what had happened. She told her mom that I was talking about what a friend had told me, but I don't think her mom bought it. I haven't met her parents yet, and I'm supposed to be going to visit her and meet them in a couple of weeks. What do I do? TL, Doctor, my girlfriend's mom heard me talk about how hard I'm going to flip her daughter and I'm going to be visiting them soon. This is partially a story and partially a question on the legality and normality of the practices of the store I've begun working at. Recently I started work at a big chain pizza restaurant, and I'm concerned about their lack of breaks. I haven't been given any breaks aside from when I managed to get around 5 minutes to myself during slow business. Usually, these breaks are ended by the manager inventing something else for me to do. Sitting down is also frowned upon when I'm not doing anything at any particular moment, so the times I actually deliver pizza instead of the trillion other jobs I'm expected to do around the store are actually a bit of a relief for my feet. I've been given many shifts that just blaze through my normal eating times without a break for food or drink. I even find it difficult to get a chance to drink water and have felt dehydrated and exhausted every day. I also have Tourette's syndrome, so the increased stress is taking a very real, physical toll on my body. When I get very stressed or frustrated, I have a tic that makes me hit myself, either in the chest or face. Recently during a shift, I hit myself in my car probably over 20 times. Is this legal? Is there anything I can do besides quit? There aren't many options for jobs right now, obviously, but this seems very sketchy. I worked at one company as IT specialist for close to 13 years, but then they started to outsource more and more, and in my last year there I was mostly an in-between person to load what was outsourced into our program and run final tests to catch their mistakes. Outsourced company had people with certificates, unlike me, but getting them do anything non-critical in any sensible amount of time was a struggle. But I never could imagine how bad it was without me kicking them every now and then. I quit in September and immediately found a new job and forgot all about them, deleting most of my contact list. And then back in March I got a message over Skype asking me to load latest changes into program. After some thought to remember who it was and what did they want, I wrote back that I can't do it because I quit half a year ago. The killer answer? Well, I can't get in touch with other programmer, maybe can try to do it anyway? So, those of you who are familiar with me know my hotel had not shut down during the beer plague and we never dropped below 20% occupancy. This was mostly due to 2 National Guard units booking up our hotel since March. A couple of weeks ago a company booked our whole hotel, all 70 rooms, both conference rooms, the meeting room, the sundry shop, laundry room, gym and kitchen. We are now closed to the public and have a security guard. Tonight begins what will hopefully shape up to be the best month of my entire career. The only thing I have to do is answer phones and run audit. This company literally has people for everything else. Y'all keep me in your thoughts because I'm not sure what to do with myself not having to handle money or stupid people. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee, cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about TJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. I guess I am not the only tech support guy that has a special relationship with his lazy-ass sales monkey colleagues. Just one of the examples. Me equals me SM equals sales monkey. Ping, direct email of SM. SM, do you know if our system backup DB works across OEMs? So if we do a DB export from OEM A and then upload to OEM B, would the settings work, as I assume the DB structure would be the same? Me, I do know. And our system backup does not work across various OEMs. SM, all good. A little over a week passed. Ping, support ticket of SM. SM, is there any way to transfer a configuration of OEM A server to an OEM B server? We have a customer with 800 IAT devices moving from OEM A to OEM B so they can continue getting updates and expanding their system. Short of manually noting all the config and re-entering it all, is there an easy way to achieve this? Me, on June 9th you emailed me this question. On June 9th I told you couldn't do this. Why would the answer be different on June 18th? SM, stutters a bit. Me, no worries. I will close the ticket. And informed my team to avoid a reputation of this annoying game. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. Obligatory not me, but my fiancé, and sorry for the formatting, I'm on my mobile. On Saturday at about 6:30 p.m. our neighbor's usually very quiet greyhounds started barking, quite a lot. My fiancé decided to wander over and stick his head over the fence and check nothing was going on. He was looking for a good few minutes. The neighbor runs a business from her home and had been broken into before, so he wanted to be sure there was nobody there. The dog seemed to be barking at nothing and the house alarm hadn't triggered, so he decided it was probably a neighborhood cat that triggered the barking. Now for context, my fiancé has been working from home and let his beard and hair grow rather scruffy, so he looks quite different to how he looked before COVID-19. Fast forward to today, we are at the local supermarket getting our usual groceries when a couple of cops asked us if they could ask us a few questions. Apparently our neighbor posted a still from her security camera on the local community page and another member saw us at the shop and called the non-urgent line. As there were a few cops in the area, they decided to attend as there had been quite a lot of break-ins in the area. After we explained we live next door, told the cops the situation and showed our ID, he let us go on our way and asked us to ask our neighbor to take the post down. I sent my neighbor a text letting her know it was my other half snooping around the house and why. She was very embarrassed. I'm highly amused and the cops were rather entertained by the whole situations. TL doctor checking what the neighbor's dog was barking at nearly got my partner arrested. Today my girlfriend and I went to Fred Meyer's so she could pick up pads. It was supposed to be a quick in and out trip, for one thing and one thing only. Thinking this, we didn't grab a basket. We get to the female hygiene products, she is trying to decide what pads she best likes and I start getting bored. I start checking out what else is in the aisle and I come across the condoms and lube. I remembered that we were out of lube at home and we had been meaning to get more, so I pick one out about the time my girl has finally decided what pads best suit her. I don't know why, but I swear she gets different pads every time. I don't really get it. We leave the aisle and we start thinking of other things we need at home, should have grabbed a basket. Before we know it, our arms are full of cases of drinks, treats, milk and other food items. At some point I had handed her the box of lube. I know, I too thought it was weird that lube comes in a box, but it's a bottle inside a box. We are walking around towards the checkout stands, pausing for a moment to make sure we weren't needing anything else. Because our arms were absolutely full and we were looking like idiots carrying all this shoot, it's no wonder she accidentally dropped the lube on the floor. The box of lube smacks the floor, making a rather obvious sound. Fred Meyer's is absolutely packed at this time of day. Everyone has already turned to look what had dropped, and in front of everyone, in a louder than normal voice, I say, "You dropped your lube." People pause and from all directions stare at her with weird looks. Some laughing and pointing, some disgusted and some puzzled as to what exactly is happening. She immediately turns beet red, runs off down an aisle leaving the lube on the Fred Meyer floor. She is not a happy camper, like at all. She keeps telling me over and over how embarrassing I am. She keeps saying, "Oh my God, you are so embarrassing, why did you say that? I hate you, you know, nice things like that." I couldn't stop laughing because I thought it was obviously hilarious. I'm an opportunist and the opportunity of yelling "you dropped your lube" in a crowded store was not going to be missed, no matter the relations between me and the lube dropper. I just cannot pass that up. She was now just walking around aimlessly, very embarrassed and trying to compose herself so we could go back up front and check out. I think she was just killing time so all the witnesses could dissipate from around the checkout area where the lube drop took place. We are back at home and she has started to calm down, a little. The lube was picked up off the floor, by me, purchased, and I think I may still have a chance at making whoopee tonight. DL, drive. Tifu by telling my girlfriend she dropped her lube in the middle of a crowded Fred Meyer's. She is very embarrassed and mad at me, but I'm still hoping we can have make-up sex tonight. So this happened a good while ago, so it's safe to post. Also, and I'd why we do this because almost everyone prefers the app, but I am on my phone for this. I am working as mod, and to my memory it was a normal night at the hotel. We have over 400 rooms, so even a slow night, pre-COVID, would be 200 plus occupied. It was getting on the evening, probably after 8 p.m., when our PBX department received a call from a room. The lady who called, "Come get this man out of my room," and the call disconnected. My associate told me what happened, and I called security and also headed up to the room. I got there at the same time as our security officer, who also had brought our engineer with him. We knocked on the door, and a man answered, and we told him to leave the room right away. He seemed calm and did not argue at all, and said he wanted to grab his things. Then he slammed the door in our face. Security opened the door, and the three of went in while I was calling PD. Boy oh boy, was a sight waiting for us inside. The woman was sitting on the floor, no visible marks or sign of struggle, completely naked. Anywho, security and engineering escorted the man downstairs while I was on the phone asking for PD and DMTs to come. I tried to talk to the lady and get some information, but she did not want to talk and I had to exit the room. I went downstairs, unfortunately, to find that the man had left the building and security didn't hold him. The problem with security being told to not restrain someone. Police arrived first, and I brought the officer to the room. The lady answered the door, still completely naked, and did not want to talk. As we were leaving, the officer mentioned that he had interacted with her before and she was suspected of trading sex for drugs. Mind you, we are the nicest hotel in our area, not the place for this shoot. EMTs arrived next, and thank God one of them was a woman. We went to the room, and the female EMT went in the room to assess the situation because, once again, the lady was still naked. Turns out she asked to press charges, and the EMT told her to go to the police station since the officer had already left. I passed on a note to our staff not to check her in again, and thankfully we never heard from her again. By far not the craziest thing I've ever seen, but definitely a good sample of what we deal with in this industry. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his two sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby, so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. This story happened literally moments ago. I've mentioned in the past that I'm a developer and part of my job is troubleshooting my software when someone complains or files a ticket. 2 Saturdays ago, one of our contractors deleted a VM. This VM housed our only version of a real-time tool for our call queues, one for which no backup existed. This project took me multiple hundreds of hours to build out the first time using a whole host of technologies. Like a miracle worker, I fixed it by early Monday, spending 26 hours of my weekend to do it. The only difference here being that the URL changed, for various reasons that don't really matter. Flash forward to this afternoon. I get an email from the CTO labeled High Importance Real-Time Not Working in Site 2. All it says is CEO informed me that real-time is not working in Site 2 and hasn't been for days. Like the good dev I am, I made the assumption that it wasn't working and no one had filed a ticket or said anything, which can and has happened before. I asked CTO if he had any additional details. His response back was, and I quote, "No." I end up sounding the alarm and engaging the networking, server, and operations support folks to start probing and find the problem. Ping tests from different VLANs, remote accessing multiple boxes, double-checking AD and the box itself. And nothing. It works just fine in every test. After spending an hour engaging a bunch of different folks, I get a call from one of our ops support folks. "Oh yeah, I was walking around with CEO since he's at Site 2 today. I told him the real-time tool wasn't set up on our monitors yet. The URL changed and we're still setting the links back up. I spent an hour panic hunting for a problem because CEO misunderstood something an ops person said and complained to CTO about a problem that didn't actually exist. The worst part of this is that I now have to tell CTO that CEO was wrong. That's not a conversation that's going to be easy or fun. At #ing C-levels. So I don't really know where else to put this, but I think I am being stalked. Basically yesterday I was just walking my dog around the neighborhood as I do pretty much every single day around the same time. But something strange happened. I was walking down the usual way that I go. I saw a red car drive by me about the size of a Honda Civic. I usually don't take note of cars that drive by me, but it was just going quite slow past me. I thought it was a little strange, but definitely nothing too strange. But it got a whole lot creepier when I was nearly back onto the street where my house was from being around the block. Because I was just walking casually when I saw a very similar red car drive past the road in front of me than before, but this time I noticed something. I saw a flash, like the flash from a phone camera from one of the windows, and like the camera was pressed right against glass taking a picture of me. I was more confused than anything but stood still for a solid minute trying to figure out WTF just happened. Something to note that makes this even more strange is that the second time the direction the car was coming from was a dead end. It basically came from the way end of my street where a bus stop is, and there's no way to enter from anywhere outside of the neighborhood from that way, which means they must have been waiting. That makes me question if they've been watching for a longer period of time and thusly knew that I would go that way. To make matters worse, I saw a very similar red car parked outside my house this morning and I walked away to get a glass of water, but when I got back it was driving away. Am I being stalked? This happened in N2000. My parents had a small store that sold daily supplies before it bankrupted 5 years ago. Our family lives right behind the stores. I was 11 at that time, sitting with my mom in the counter talking about normal stuff. A woman came in, barefooted. I greeted her first. She ignored me and went to my mom. "Food," the woman said in very weak voice, with her hand gestured to her mouth. My mom caught the signal, went to house and brought a plate full of rice with side foods on top. The woman took the plate, then ate it pretty quick while sitting on bench near the counter. She coughed because of eating too fast, then my mom signed me to get some water. I took a bottle of mineral water and gave it to the women. We just stunned watching her eating. It was a complete silence. After finished the food, she left immediately without any word. While I was cleaning that up, I asked Mom who was that? She just raised her shoulders. Until now we still don't know who she is. So I work at a small office for a construction company. I have one coworker that is a grandma, and due to some parental issues, she is now taking care of her 2 youngest granddaughters, ages 7 and 8. She doesn't really have money, so she can't pay for a babysitter to watch the girls as she's working her 8 to 5 job. There is also the issue of COVID-19 right now, So having a stranger come into your house for long periods of time and be around kids is not really a good idea. Luckily, for her, the boss is okay with the girls being in the office as long as they don't bother anyone from working and be quiet. Over the time, I've slowly went from being grandma's co-worker to being a babysitter. This is how it starts. The girls did that at first, until one of their tablets broke down and stopped working. Then, they would fight over the other tablet and would whine and tattle to the closest adult there, usually me. So to stop this I brought my tablet just so that they could watch Disney+. It worked, until my tablet ran out of power. Then, whoever had that tablet would start to come up to me and say I'm bored. They'd bring a backpack full of colors, coloring books, toys, etc. So I know that they aren't bored, they just want a tablet. I would then have to list off things for them to do, so that I could go back to work. After a while, I've learned how my coworker has been parenting them, and when the girls do something, then I just follow what my coworker tells them to do. For example, the girls have a towel and toothbrushes and toothpaste in the girls' bathroom. They are told that they have to wash their face, hands, and teeth after eating lunch. The girls would try to get away with this and go straight back to the tablets after eating, so I would have to remind them as to subtly tell them that they can't disobey their grandma. Now, I just have to raise an eyebrow and they listen. I really was fed up with all of this, especially when my coworker and I would usually be the only ones in the office, but I didn't really say anything because I know that my coworker can't really do anything to keep them home and they are kids who need to be loud and run around and all that. But, I finally realized how much my coworker was taking advantage of me when she said, "Wow. You're the cheapest babysitter. All I have to do is just pay for your lunch." She not only said this straight to my face, but also in front of the girls who now believe that I am their babysitter. Now if there are any problems, from an untied shoe to a fight over who can get what, the girls go to me first before their grandma. This was years ago when the PS2 was still new. So when I was little I had no idea about video games, but my dad bought me a PS2 so I could have something to have fun with. After a while I got addicted to gaming and ended up getting many games, like around 10 games. For some dumbass reason I never realized what saving a game was. For many years and hours upon hours of playing games, I would play games from the beginning, starting new again and again. Whenever I had to take a break to do something I would pause the game and leave it for hours on. Sometimes the PS2 would disconnect and I would get sad because I had to start from the beginning again. This is probably the main reason I never once finished the games I had, because I couldn't save. I played Crash Twinsanity and Sly Cooper so many times starting from the very beginning. I basically played all my games on the PS2 on hardcore mode, where a game over literally meant game over. Doctor, I played every single game on my PS2 from the very start every time because I didn't know that memory cards were a thing. For context, when I was a kid my mom occasionally traveled to other towns for work meetings, and I liked coming with, so sometimes she brought me along and I would sit in the lobby while she was in a meeting waiting for her to come out. I was prepared to entertain myself for a couple of hours. Before she left she gave me a couple of dollars and said I could buy some snacks at the cafe. After I bought a snack I went and found a table and put my snack, the remaining money, and my book on top and took a seat. I didn't have a wallet so the money was clearly just sitting on the table. I know, dumb idea, but I was 10. A couple hours went by and I was wrapped up in my book and busy slowly munching on my snack, when a man approached me. I didn't really notice until he was standing above me. I peeped over my book and got a look at him. He was old, maybe late 50s, and wearing a very used and grubby trench coat with a mix of gray and white hair. He gestured toward the money and said, "You don't need that money, do you? Can you give it to me?" I said, "Sorry, no, it's mine and I don't give money away for free." I reached over and grabbed the money and held it close to me. Instead of walking away he kept on insisting. He asked another couple of times before saying, "It's okay, I have a PhD, I'm a college professor, you can trust me, it's alright, can't you spare a couple of dollars?" I thought it was weird that that's what he thought was going to make me change my mind. I still refused and I was getting more uncomfortable. I must have looked distressed because a woman at the front desk came over and asked if there was a problem. Before I could say "This man is asking for my money," he said, "This girl stole my money and won't give it back." He pointed at me with a pouty face. I turned red at the accusation and started shaking my no furiously. The woman must have picked up on my distress and asked the man to leave. He refused and kept insisting that I stole his money and needed to give it back. Another woman from behind the desk came over and firmly asked him to leave the building. He started raising his voice and at this point softly yelling. He started getting aggressive. 2 other adults started to walk over. He decided to just sprint for the exit and left. I always wondered what would have happened if the adults believed the man and tried to force me to hand over the money, or if the man tried to pry it from my hands. The women at the front desk let me inside the meeting with my mom and I sat with her the rest of the hour. This wasn't super intense, but it's still petty to try and steal money from a child. I'm glad he didn't try and get physical. I had social anxiety and didn't like confrontation from strangers. I do feel bad for him, thought, because he must have been very desperate to try and get out of me with so many people around. He was clearly homeless and it sucks that he even felt the need to do it. Strange man to try to trick me. Let's not meet again. When I worked for a popular retail store, policy was that ID had to be verified before ringing up a purchase using a card with store credit, as in issued credit from returns, not from actual credit cards. I ended up getting a group of kids who looked no older than 20. The total amount of their items for purchase were about 100 to 200 something. In the hand of one of them was an issued card for store credit. I then had to ask the dreaded question, "Do you have ID?" And #X200B. Now Idaho for store-issued credit must be a driver's license, state ID, or passport, and that's it. The person with the matching ID must be present. Apparently, these kids did not have any ID that matched the store-issued credit. ID is scanned at returns to link the card. One of the kids piped up, saying that it belonged to his stepmom and that she gave it to him. I asked him if she was present and he said no. I told him that I needed her ID. Kid then asks if I can accept a picture of her ID and I told him no, that his stepmom must be present. And #X200B. The group of kids then left the items at my register and left the store. At least they were polite and didn't make a scene. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap, it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. I don't work in our disputes department, but they're not available for most customers right now and I know most of our policies on disputes. So I have a customer that's mad about how we're processed a purchase she made and she wants her money back. Listen here, I didn't know that was how the order was going to process, so I want my money back. Well miss, you did confirm that purchase when you made it, that is would be processed through your bank not your credit. This is absurd, I don't even want the thing anymore. Okay, well here is the contact information for the seller, if you want to cancel it you can work out something with them. That website doesn't exist, and that phone number doesn't work. Yikes, sounds like a scam, but they put in tracking for the item, so they sent her something at least. Normally we can dispute it if they don't ship anything, but they sent it, and it looks like a legit business, so she's not going to be happy with this. Well, if you can't work something out with a merchant, you won't be able to get a refund. But I don't want it anymore, can't I just dispute the charge? Well, as long as you receive the item, no. Our purchase protection doesn't cover buyer's remorse, only unauthorized charges and items not received. So what if I haven't gotten it yet? I want to dispute it. Then we would require them to provide us with a tracking number, which they have, that says it's in transit. It's set to be delivered in a few days. But I don't want it anymore. I'm going to refuse the package. Good luck with that. Postal Service doesn't even check the names of who they're delivering to, let alone require signatures. Even if you refused it, the delivery would show as refused, be returned to the sender, and we wouldn't cover you if they attempted it at your address. I'm sorry, but we wouldn't be able to cover your purchase if you refuse the shipment. Like I said, we don't cover buyer's remorse. It's not buyer's remorse. I told you I just don't want it anymore. People are allowed to change their minds, you know. Yeah, but you paid for it, you confirmed it, and they already shipped it to you. They did exactly what they were supposed to, what you twice confirmed said you wanted, and you want to force them to eat the cost of the shipping, the processing they had to do to get you that, and maybe get it back. Sounds like you just want it for free, hun, and that's exactly why we don't cover this. If they wanted to be nice and refund you, that's on them, but we're not going to force them to. She hung up after getting tired of repeating the same thing like she was going to suddenly say the magic words and get what she wanted. People are too spoiled from big companies paying for their customers' stupidity. This happened Saturday and I am still super mad at myself. Some friends of mine invited me out on a boat for wakeboarding at the lake. The lake is roughly 75 minutes away. I offered to drive because I love driving. We were enjoying ourselves with a cooler full of ice-cold brewskis. About an hour into the trip, I had just finished my turn on the board and was feeling pretty cool and challenged everyone to shotgun a beer while we were between boarders. You can probably guess where this is going. I used my keys to my truck to open the can, and then passed it around. My buddy handed back the keys and I turned around to toss them into the glove box. We also happened to be on the peak of a large wave. Yup. My keys went straight into the lake. I immediately dove in after them, but it was about 15 feet deep and the water is so murky you can see 6 inches in front of your face even with goggles. After we spent 45 minutes to an hour diving for them, we called it a loss and headed back to the dock, and I called a locksmith when I found cell service. I figured it would cost me about $150 to $200 since it was a transponder key. Oh no, I was very wrong. We waited 90 minutes for the locksmith to arrive. That's how I found out that the automaker charges $75 for the vehicle code and my truck requires one working key to register the second key. Meaning I had to purchase 200 keys to start my truck, plus the other fees. Worst $600 I've ever spent in my entire life. You can bet your ass I'm keeping one spare inside the truck at all times. DL, doctor, I opened a can with my truck keys to shotgun a beer, threw the keys overboard. Cost of the replacement keys, $600. Cost of my shame, priceless. Maybe someone can provide some perspective for me, but I really don't understand not cleaning as you go. You know, where if you cook a meal you clean the 3 dishes that you used instead of letting a week's worth of dishes pile up with the intention of cleaning all at once over the weekend. After a string of not great roommate situations, I focused my roommate search on other individuals who valued living in a relatively clean space, nothing extreme, just basic cleanliness. I found a group of roommates who let me tour their very clean house and said that they all pitch in to keep things tidy. Great. Well, as it turns out, their philosophy of cleaning is to let a week's worth of everything pile up and then clean it all at once at some point over the weekend. It seems like this creates infinitely more work, and honestly I really don't understand this style of cleaning. It seems so much easier to just wipe down the counter real quick, wash your 2 or 3 total dishes, put your cup in the dishwasher, etc. instead of waiting for one day to have to deep clean crusty hardened on food that was spilled in basically every single dish we own. I just don't understand. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting followed by the bouncer escorting her out. My vocabulary isn't that big so I may not be able to express it properly, please forgive. So I think I have to say this was a few years ago, but the memory popped up since it's her death anniversary. 4 years ago my aunt was severely ill. She was battling cancer. On June 22 my mom called and told me I need to quickly get to the hospital. On my way there I needed gas. This woman and her 3 children were in the station and one took off out the door, and so I ran after and stopped the child. She began thanking me, but she went into somewhat of a speech. I knew I had to leave, but people came up while she was speaking telling me how kind I was, etc. 15 minutes passed and we headed out only to get to the hospital to find out my aunt had passed 20 minutes ago. When asked what happened I told the truth and was given looks of disdain. Most of my family moved on, but my mom still treats me like the long handle of a spoon. TLDR, I helped a kid that ran out of a gas station and was too awkward to say I had to go and missed my aunt's last moments. Our prison system is a joke. It's mismanaged, notoriously corrupt, and resoundingly ineffective, and it's never going to change because prison officials are never going to allow outside oversight of what goes on inside. It's no longer an objective to rehabilitate prisoners. Now prisons are just warehouses for criminals, the mentally ill, and the innocent. It's hard to fight for reform because no one really knows what happens beyond the visiting rooms, and prison administrators have every intention of keeping it that way. Even when the occasional television crew or local politician is given a tour, it's usually a highly orchestrated, sanitized version of reality. That's where Prison Writers comes in. We provide a platform to hear all the stories from within the walls of prison. We expose the corruption, violence, struggles with re-entry, the daily survival of an inmate, and much more. From heartbreaking and emotional stories to humorous and outrageous stories, every story helps us better understand what truly goes on in prison. Their story needs to be heard, and we are here to deliver a platform the inmates need. Head over to Prison Writers to learn about the broken injustices that make up our incarceration system and how we could fix them. When I was 17 I used to deliver for a well-known pizza place in the area. Of course Fridays were always insane, and this Friday was supposedly going to be the biggest. Halfway through the night I got to deliver to a home for a specialty pie with 5 toppings. The bill came out to $35. Pizza was deep dish when given toppings, so the price was always jacked up, and was hopping for another good tip to bring my night to about $50. As I'm walking up to the door I can hear them trying to shush their dog. Usually whenever this were to happen it was common courtesy for the customer to come outside to avoid any issues with their dog. Well, they open the door and their 100-pound husky comes bolting out, jumps, bites my arm, and then attacks the pizza. Luckily I was okay and very disoriented from the whole situation and wasn't sure what to do since the pizza was all over their front steps. They freaked out and continuously apologized. They informed me that they would call the store and order a new pie and pay for both and tip me extra. However, they sent me on my way without ever paying me. My 17-year-old mind was still messed up from getting attacked by their dog. Getting back to the store I find out they never called and we couldn't find their phone number to contact them. Got bit by their dog and ended up not making anything after it all. For the whole 50 of you who come here, this sub started based off a tale about a kind old blind man that lives on my street. Today I had a brief conversation with him on my way out for work that I feel is post-worthy. I was driving down the street heading out for work when I see Mr. Wilson standing out in his front lawn with a cup of coffee staring at a tree. Again, he is blind, so I decide to pull over and check on him. Me: "Hey Mr. Wilson, what's going on?" Mr. W: "Is that you, clock?" Me: "Sure is, mate. Everything okay this morning?" Mr. W: "Sure is, just enjoying the fresh air." Me: "Well, good. The way you were just standing there I thought something might be wrong." Mr. W laughs: "Yeah, I suppose it might be a bit strange to see an old blind man just standing around." Me: "No, not really, it's just that. Well mate, you're standing and staring right at your tree." Mr. Wilson cracks up laughing and I followed suit. We stood there and had a good laugh. Then he turns to me and says, "Mr. W, care to make a wager, clock?" Me: "Depends, on what?" Mr. W: "How many of the neighbors do you think can come by and question me about staring at a tree, between now and whenever I go inside?" Me: "Laugh and give a quick mental count of how many people on the street aren't total douchebags. I'd say about 3. Mr. W: "Well, I say 5, so you head out to work and I'll stare at this tree, and when you get off someone is gonna owe someone a beer." I had a good laugh and headed off to work. When I got home I had to go back out and get a 6-pack. Turns out 6 people checked on him. TL: Dr. Blind Man stares at a tree, turns into a bet.